We're going to have Steve Robertson coming up in about 5 minutes. You can watch the show on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. Want to welcome you in. Good morning. Good morning. Blake, I just figured out what a course that I can teach. Are you excited about this?
Like you're gonna start professing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to be part of the super sophisticated higher ed crowd.
Yeah. All right. Lay it on me. What course are you going to teach?
So I read this morning. I've talked about this through the years, and I want to bounce this off of you and our listeners. The Mississippi Ag John Deere Tractor text line is 601-885-3776. I want some feedback on this, Blake, if you're ready. All right? The show is driven by your next John Deere tractor and John Deere lawnmower at Mississippi Ag, 2 locations, Canton, Pearl. I'm reading this article this morning. It's a study out of Harvard. Okay, you ready? We're all really bad at knowing when to end a conversation at a party.
I saw that.
I'm not. When I tell you I can leave anywhere without saying goodbye, I've never understood why people need to, like, bounce around again, and then you extend 30, 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
And people will do this for their whole lives and, like, talk about it. They're like, yeah, I can't. All right. It's easy. It's super, super easy. But I'm going to teach. So this is what it says. We're all really bad at knowing when and how to end a conversation, according to a new study. The researchers found only 2% of conversations end when both people want them to. So your best bet is to end a conversation at the first time it's appropriate because, quote, it's better to be left wanting more than less. Okay. So according to this new study out of Harvard, researchers found only 2% of conversations end when both people want. Now, only 30% of conversations end when one person wants them to, Blake.
Interesting.
Now, I think it's pretty. Now, Wendy over the years has kind of been like, oh, my God, you just walked away from that mid-conversation.
That's what I was about to say. Your class would not be it'd be like a one-day, 15-minute course of, well, you just turn and walk away.
Right.
There's no, like, you're not teaching people an art of leaving a conversation. You're teaching people how to turn and walk. It'd be a short class.
But I agree with this. The overwhelming majority of people will sit there and have a conversation
Correct.
that they're not interested in. That baffles and boggles my mind.
But in the South, aren't we two things? Aren't we, as Southern people, programmed to be conversational?
Okay.
And be hospitable and friendly and talk to everybody?
Fair enough.
And secondly, aren't most people aren't most people just listening to you so that they can get to what they want to say eventually? Like, we're just sitting here. I'm just waiting for you to keep in talking so that then I can say what I want to say, regardless of what you just told me.
Yes.
That's mostly conversations down here too. So I think it's like a faux pas. That's why your wife says, I can't believe you just turned and walked away, because in the South we're not told that. We're taught to be polite and have pleasantries.
There's something there that when I check out, it's over.
Yeah, and you just walk away.
Yeah.
You know what? That's very I don't know how to say that. Like, I feel like that is on the intellectual spectrum. There is something to be said about people who a lot of times are gifted in one area, are socially like built that way, and you obviously are good at talking to people. You sell, so this is kind of interesting that you have this trait. But like, I think of like engineers or scientists who like, if you're talking about something
CPAs.
that they're interested in, they'll stay in the conversation. And as soon as it goes to, oh, did you catch the Cowboys game this weekend?
Right.
That person just stops listening and is looking at something and then turns and walks away.
Yes.
That is very much like the intellectual person, but you work in conversational
in the people
sales,
business.
So it's interesting that you have that trait. That's kind of odd.
I've never understood the whole telling everybody bye at a party.
It's like the thing to do.
What a waste of time.
It's like what you're supposed to be polite.
I think waving across the room. Oh, yeah. All right, see you. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't say bye to everybody at a party. I say bye to specific people that, like, I think are worth saying bye to. And
I'm good at going for a short period of time and leaving.
Well, you've already had your soapbox on, like, college. You want sports in general to be shorter, which I disagree with vehemently. But
well, you're wrong.
You don't want to spend
time.
Who
in the hell wants to go to a 3-hour and 50-minute college football game?
You don't want to spend time doing anything, though. That's what we've come up with.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to talk to people. You don't want to be at sporting events.
Oh my gosh.
You just don't want to do anything.
No, I do. That's not true. I've got a packed day today full of visiting with people.
That's true.
But-
But it's short increments. You're a rapid heartbeat, right? It's up, down, up, down, up, down. If you can't do the consistent marathon, like stay in one lane, you have to be, I'm doing this project, then this thing, then this thing, then
Okay.
this thing.
I don't know what it says about me. It may be bad.
Well, I think if you
It's
were
just-
not having success, it would be bad. But it's the age-old adage that you can probably get to the title game in a couple different ways.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have. Is there a super best way? Maybe, but there's also teams. The Titans make it to the AFC title game. You know what I mean? Like, they don't play the same way the Chiefs do.
Okay.
So they're
Well, Tampa Bay and Kansas City don't play the same
as
way.
long as you find your mojo with what you're doing,
Yeah.
then I think that's the important piece,
All
right?
right. Fair enough.
There you go.
Thanks. Well, that's the course I'm going to teach. Knowing when to end the conversation. How about that? And now this kind of adds at a party, but it can be anywhere. Live in the Bank Plus studio, Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone. SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools, also presented by Briarwood Wine and Spirits. So Nate Dogg just got a shipment of Private Selection Four Roses Bourbon. I went by and had to grab a couple of bottles yesterday. I've got two clients in particular that just go bananas over the stuff. And it won't last long. He's got another one dropping in, I think, late April. But this is a single barrel, Private Selection, Four Roses Bourbon. And they have it right now at Briarwood Wine and Spirits, 4949 Old Canton Road. And that's Nate Dogg, Nathan McCarty, with Briarwood Wine and Spirits, who we've had a great time with over the years. Many laughs and so on. We're live in the Bank Plus studio, Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app and the zone1059.com. And, of course, you can watch the show on YouTube. I almost choked on my coffee earlier. YouTube, search Out of Bounds Sports. Would love for you to go to that channel. We welcome in Steve Robertson, Boneyard Podcast, 247 Sports, Hail State Insider. He joins us on the Shiner Bach guest line. Steve, all right, Tennessee Tech is out. Kent State is in, playing Mississippi State in baseball this weekend. What does that mean for the Bulldogs?
Well, it's going to give them an opportunity to get a higher RPI non-conference opponent. I mean, Tennessee Tech's probably going to come in, long-term, probably in the 200s. And then, Kent State's, a team that's already, I think, in the top 50. And they'll probably settle somewhere, say 75 to 80, somewhere around there. So, when you begin to kind of stack this thing up with the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee a little bit later in the process, I mean, these are the kind of things that make a difference when they begin to do the seedings. And so, State's in the contention for a top 8 national seed. And so, you want to do everything you can to kind of help your cause. And so it's kind of a turn of luck here, I guess, where State's able to drop a non-conference opponent and pick up one with a better resume and a team that probably long-term helps their own NCAA tournament resume in the end.
Okay, so this is an upgrade. This is a serious upgrade this weekend for the Bulldogs, Steve.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And listen, Kent State's got a couple of pitchers that are in the top 200 prospects for the next MLB draft.
Yikes.
So, it's going to be well, the one thing about it that's interesting, too, is they're going to start 3 right-handers, which is kind of music to the ears of Bulldog fans when State's having this, left-handed dominant lineup. But they're going to start three right-handers, and one of those guys, Albright's a kid that I think he struck out 17 in 10 innings pitched and had maybe 3 walks. I mean, it's a ridiculous ratio. So, yeah, this is a team that's going to come in here to, I won't be the least bit surprised, if we have, some 4-3, 6-5 type ball games. I mean, I don't know if offensively they're going to be able to be on the level that Tulane was, but yeah, they're expected to pitch it really well. State's going to have to play well.
Steve Robertson, genespage.com. They're all over baseball, football recruiting. Joins us on the Shiner Bach guest line. Okay, so Steve, We talked to you about the right-handed and left-handed at bats in the lineup for MSU. They're predominantly left-handed. Obviously, Rowdy goes both ways, but Brad Cumbest. So he could really be a nice piece of the puzzle for this team. He plays football and baseball, big kid, athletic, so on. Did he tweak something last night on that double? And have you heard anything since the game ended last night against Southern Miss?
Yeah, well, yeah, he did tweak something on that double, and it was, they thought it was a home run, and so he's in the home run trot. Next thing you know, Southern Miss is playing defense, and he has to kind of motor into second there. Did kind of tweak something, and checked with some people last night, and just said, hey, until we'll get him back to Starkville, we'll get him on the training room table and check him out. Yeah, I don't think it's anything serious, but at this point, we just don't know for sure. But you're exactly right about Brad could be an important part of the piece of this puzzle because State needs another power right-handed bat. And then last night he really showed some of that power. He had the triple to right center, and then he had the double off the wall. And he is a dead red fastball hitter. You're not going to be able to sneak that fastball by him. And this is where him playing football and not having the opportunity to play a lot of fall baseball kind of comes into play. It's because he just hasn't really developed the skill yet to hit that, major college baseball breaking ball. And so once he dedicates himself one way or another, I do believe his long-term future is going to be in baseball. He's going to have an opportunity to do some bigger things. But, it's good to see him hit the ball with some authority last night. And you certainly hope that he's going to be 100% this weekend.
What was your takeaway? I thought that they barreled up on some balls. I mean, they're hitting the ball hard and not getting, the results here and there, but it looks like they're close to breaking open a game like that. And instead of it being 4-1, Steve, it could have been 8-1.
Yeah, when you think back to last Friday, with Braden Olthoff out there, State wasn't getting a lot of solid contact, because he was getting such great, sink on his pitches, so you're kind of beating the ball in the ground. Last night was much different. Last night there were a lot of loud outs. I mean, Josh Hatcher absolutely tattooed the baseball 4 times and had absolutely nothing to show for it. And State, of course, lined into a couple double plays early in the ball game, and it's just kind of bad luck. You hit the ball almost too hard, and but you're right, Bo. Those things will kind of come around pretty soon. Those balls will be in gaps, and you'll start putting some runs together. I think we're getting really close to the State offense really kind of breaking out. I think you saw some signs last night where they are beginning to really barrel up some baseballs and seeing the baseball well. Last night just couldn't get that timely hit to really expand the game, and there were a couple times, late when they just you get runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs, and you don't push anything across, and that gets really frustrating. But you're exactly right. It could have easily been a 7-8-1 type ball game, and with the way that bullpen performed last night, I don't think Southern Miss could have scored if they'd have played another 20 innings.
Well, all right, and we know Southern Miss has talent, and Scott Berry does a really good job. When you look at the way Harding and Peyton Johnson performed last night, are they building even more depth than some people thought that they would have on the Mississippi State pitching staff?
Here's what's incredible about that. And the first thing I'll say is Southern Miss is a good team, and they're going to have a good year. They just had a difficult night last night, and I think a lot of it's because you had some guys pitch there's not a lot of tape on. But State has had 21 pitchers throw this year, 21. And then there are 3 guys they were expecting to pitch, Cade Smith, Will Bednar, and Parker Sinnett, that haven't pitched yet. And so you could conceivably have as many as 24 guys. Now, Cade Smith's still kind of shut down, kind of working back from some tightness. But it's almost an embarrassment of riches. And then when you look at what they did last night, and Preston Johnson's a name that everybody's talking about this morning because they were unfamiliar with him, all fall. That was some of the discussion that we had about our guys who were able to go attend the scrimmage games, that Preston Johnson was going to be a huge part of the staff. And then he's unavailable for a couple of weeks, and he goes up there last night and it's absolutely dominates. And, a guy that size that can throw that hard and then can change speeds on you really makes things hard on those hitters. And so, he's going to pitch every weekend, and you begin to add him to what you already had. You think about Landon Sims. All this hype about the Mississippi State pitching staff was not hype. It was legit. And the more people you talk to about that, whether it be in MLB draft circles or it be other coaches and people that have reviewed Mississippi State, it's not something that people were just making up to have something to talk about. And people are beginning to kind of see that now. Last night, of course, the best quality start of the year, and they dominated, really kind of realized their potential. But this is who Mississippi State can be from a pitching standpoint.
Okay, interesting. All right, you mentioned Bednar, and people know about Cade Smith. Who was the third guy you just mentioned, Steve?
Parker Sinnett. And
Okay.
through the fall, he was one of the better middle relievers on the staff. He's the guy that got to kind of harness the breaking ball a little bit better so he can land it for a strike. But he's the guy they're very, very excited about.
All right, Steve Robertson, genespage.com, 247 Sports Network. He joins us on the Shinerbach guest line. Steve, let's go to Leach and quarterback recruiting. The young man out of Alabama that they're battling South Carolina and some other teams on. Can you tell our audience about him and where he is in his recruitment, and is that Leach's number one target for this class?
Well, his name is Tanner Bailey out of Gordo High School, just across the border there in Pickens County, Alabama. And it certainly appears that if he's not the top prospect, he's certainly right there, 1A, 1B. But his brother is in school at Mississippi State now, and so he's been able to spend some time over here. He comes over and sees his brother and hangs out with his friends and kind of enjoys being an opportunity to see what it's like to be a college student at Mississippi State. And so that's a huge advantage. And then Mike Leach is having multiple conversations with this young man and his family each week and letting him know that he's a priority to the staff. And it looks like it's going to boil down to Mississippi State and South Carolina. Now, he was at Oregon yesterday. Joe Moorhead's been recruiting him since Joe was here at Mississippi State. So there's a long-standing relationship there.
Okay.
Got him to go up there and take an unofficial visit yesterday. But, our people close to the matter just don't think he'll go that far away. He kind of wanted to go for the experience. But he does admit that Mississippi State and South Carolina appear to be recruiting him the hardest. And, there were some rumors that popped up late last week, and it's incredible how these things just begin to kind of snowball. There's an article, and perhaps Mississippi State isn't mentioned, and everybody freaks out, and you don't know the line of questioning. You simply don't know what was asked or what wasn't. And then next thing you know, the South Carolina guys are like crystal balling the guys, since everybody thinks, oh, my gosh, they know something that we don't. Well, I've talked to them. They don't know anything that we don't. A lot of people just go put a pick out there, and it's kind of an educated guess or a hopeful guess, and people begin to freak out. But the bottom line is he has not made a decision. He has not set a time frame for a decision. And according to sources close to the family, they're going to take in these campus visits and then begin to sit down as a family and make a decision. And they're just simply not at that point yet. And so Mississippi State is very much in the mix with him. State has made him feel like a priority, and they continue to recruit him as if he is their guy.
Interesting. Okay, so Gordo, Alabama, Tanner Bailey, quarterback. And so the battle is Mississippi State and South Carolina. You mentioned Oregon. Is there another team that's in the mix that you would consider strongly?
No, I think that's probably – I think you've nailed it there. I think it's State and South Carolina, Oregon, a bit of a dark horse. But, he was being recruited by Alabama, and, of course, they take Ty Simpson, and Tennessee was on him a little bit too, and that was prior to the coaching change there in Knoxville. But, there's some other schools out there that are trying to get in the mix with them, but I would say right now it's really a Mississippi State South Carolina battle.
Okay, and real quick, Steve, we got a few minutes here. The state just opened up, Duty Noble, Swayze. There'll be more fans. When will the conferences and coaches and everybody know more about the NCAA restrictions on recruiting, and when do you think that those could be lifted for this year?
Well, I think, and Bo, I hate to make things political because I'm an apolitical person. I think a lot of the holdup on this, the dead period stuff is the West Coast. They've got some very strict guidelines out there. And so let's say the NCAA lifts the prohibition on on-campus recruiting. But then all those schools in California and Oregon and Washington won't be able to have that. So basically the Pac-12 and others, because of their state guidelines, will not be able to host prospects on campus. It puts them it's ridiculous, but that's the reality of which we live in. And what's crazy too is the casual fan doesn't understand this, that D2 schools, D3 schools, those people have been able to get out and go do some recruiting this spring, and they're going to be able to host visitors on campus. And so That's what. So there's so much hypocrisy about all this. It's like, okay, what's okay for D2 and D3 schools, so those coaches, I guess, are virus proof. But you're letting the kid go visit State and Ole Miss with his family and have a chance to sit down and talk to the coaches. We can't do that. Yeah, it makes no sense. And I'm not going to get here and make a political statement, but it doesn't make any sense for one level of programs to be able to do it and another level not. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The protocol should be consistent for everybody.
All right. Steve Robertson on the Out of Bounds Show and the Shinerbach guest line. Steve, I've got a couple of minutes here. Our listeners want you to go back to baseball. Who do you think could be emerging, whether it's a guy that's been in the lineup or playing a little bit, that 3 weeks from now could have some more juice behind him? Who are you looking at that you're like, he's close? He's close to doing some special things on the diamond for Lamonas.
Well, I think Rowdy is close, and I think part of that too is, Rowdy is historically a slow starter. It's been that way ever since he's been here. He's always been a guy that kind of struggles the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, and then he breaks out. And I expect that to happen again this year. And then, Tanner Allen, you start to see him starting to warm up a little bit. I think Josh Hatcher is one of those guys, too. You look at his numbers and you say, maybe we drop him in the order. But then when you go look at what he's doing, how hard he's hitting the baseball, it just seems like it's a matter of time before he drops one over the fence. And, he struggles a little bit with that left-handed breaking ball, probably more so than some of the guys like Tanner Allen or Luke Hancock. But when he's able to stay closed, he can absolutely murder the baseball. But when they work him away, when he kind of looks away and kind of dumps that ball in left field, he is a very dangerous hitter, because then all of a sudden you got to come to him. And so I think Josh is probably close, and I feel like Rowdy will get going. And I think Cam's got to get this defensive thing worked out. I mean, he's booted some balls around, but he's swinging the bat really well, swinging the ball with some authority. And State needs some right-handed power in addition to Logan Tanner. And so if Cam can do that, possibly Brad Cumbus, I think it makes this lineup very, very difficult for both sides of the plate for right-handed and left-handed pitchers.
I've got about a minute here. Lamona seemed to be a little confident about it. Do you think Bednar throws this weekend, Steve?
I think he does. I don't know if he starts. It's one of those things. It's a week-to-week deal. We find out basically, an hour before game time out in Arlington that he's not going to go. And then they tell us he's got a stiff neck, and then this is the next start. So I don't know. Maybe it's the incredible case of Will Bednar comes to a close this weekend.
Okay. Steve Robertson, genespage.com, 247 Sports, the Boneyard Podcast, on the Shiner Bach guest line. Steve, we'll catch up next week. Appreciate it.
See ya.
Steve Robertson on the Out of Bounds Show. So there you go. Everybody's kind of looking towards Bednar. I mean, he could be the best. I mean, he's highly, highly thought of with Major League Baseball scouts. He's yet to throw a pitch this year. And they've only had Sarantola once. And Sarantola was not sharp the one time that they had him, and yet they've still won 2 or 3 both weekends. That's the good. They obviously have to get better in several phases and areas of the game. Hey, welcome in. Good morning. We've got Steve Palazzolo on Dak Prescott at 8:30 and Dave Bartu on Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, and Dak Prescott at 9:30. Welcome in. Buckle up. Back in a minute.